Hey folks, Vince the Evil DM here with another video here on my channel of me just thinking. I'm calling these series Just Thinking. I used to do these all the time. I'm doing them again. Just sitting here at the desk talking about things that came across my daily plate or whatever people were talking about. I got asked a question today from someone who is a uh, mainstream D&D player who is kind of getting into the old school itself, old school gaming, because of me and some other people. And he asked me, why do I constantly play only older games as opposed to mainstream games like D&D 5e. Now, I have nothing against D&D 5e whatsoever. I mean, you could play whatever edition you want. I just know that edition just isn't in my wheelhouse, my spectrum. I don't want to play that game. I've tried it, and I've had my difficulties with it. I don't like the way the rules are. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about why I want to play old school over it. Well, old school D&D to me is gives you as a game master or a dungeon master, there are fewer rules that cover things, which allows you as a GM to grow. It allows you to be I don't want to say a better GM, but it makes you more creative and more flexible when it comes to uh, adjudicating things. There's not a rule for everything, and there never will be a rule for everything. Unfortunately, a lot of people are under this impression that the book is the ultimate rules guideline and nothing else. No, the books are just guidelines. And I like the fact that they're just guidelines. And another thing, players in old school versus a new school engage in more of role play. And I'm not talking about, just role play. They rather role play things out than or talk things out than go looking for a rule in the book. Old school gameplay requires players to think creatively, think critically, and unlike the newer systems who just rely on rolling a die and hoping that they're covered by some type of rule. Character death is more common in old school as opposed to new school. It's I like the cautious play of old school. You never know what's around the corner. OSR was always oh shit run, you know, things like that. I don't like the fact that people walk into certain combat situations and just think that they're superheroes. Yes, you are an adventurer. Yes, you are going to be something someday, but not at first level, not at second level, and probably not until sixth level. You're not going to really see some sort of super engagement with being a legend. And it just, I want the reason for me playing it is I like the mystery. I like the possibility of death. I like the ability to not just walk into combat and destroy something, the fact that this thing's going to take me out before I could take it out. Newer editions also offer a lot more options, which basically, I want to say, curves player creativity and decision making. A lot of people, when it comes to new school, get frozen in that what do I do, what do I do, what do I do situation, and have to pick the best possible thing to do in that situation. Otherwise, they're a failure. With the old school, the options are very limited, but you also are limited by your imagination. You could just swing a sword, or you could creatively swing a sword by jumping off of a barrel and using a different part of the blade. Yeah, it's all in description, and your GM may give you more of a bonus for just describing it because you're being really active. It Old school, in my opinion, produces more talented game masters and players. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't talented players and game masters in later editions. I just noticed that the old school end, it tends to be more talent involved with it and less relying on the rules again and just making stuff up that works. The game itself are generally really good when you play in an old school game. So a game master's talent when it comes to old school is a lot of improvisation because again, there's not a rule for everything, and there's not a situation, there's not an encounter for everything. So you have to, as a game master, have some good quality ability when running a game. You have to foster a more immersive experience and environment when it comes to the player sitting at the table. And versus newer editions where the rule book often dictates how things are done or how others do it in the community. I noticed that with newer editions, a lot of people seek the approval or the recognition from others in the community before doing anything. As simple as, how is this encounter? Did I do it right? It's like, did you plan the encounter out? Yes. Does the encounter look like it fits for your group? Maybe. But do you need my approval? No. You're the GM. I understand that maybe you're new to the game and you may need a little help, but there's a lot of people that constantly have to have that, validation or certification from strangers when when it comes to their game. I think it comes along because of the whole online YouTube boom, of playing games online. They feel they have to mimic this style, and if they don't mimic this style of whomever, I'm not going to point anybody out, and you probably could figure out who I'm talking about, then their game is a failure. Now, I played in various mainstream games, and a lot of times players will come into it quoting from other players online who would say, well, that's not how this person does it online. And they'd be like, every DM is different. You can't compare me to this person or that person to me. It's not fair. If you came to the table thinking your experience is going to be the ultimate DM because you saw the ultimate DM on YouTube do a game and you loved it, you're not going to see that style. There may be some people out there that will mimic his style, but you're never going to see the same style twice, unfortunately. Role-playing is a major focus when it comes to old school games, and I love to role play, and I love improvisation, and I love throwing left and right hooks at players so they're confused, and it makes them want to actually play. It's just a little more interesting when you can describe a room with a monster lurking in the room in the shadows trying to get at them versus you as a DM describe the same situation but rolling dice and saying, oh, you kind of notice a glimpse of a monster. You rolled a 15. Yay. So there is a lot more higher stakes when it comes to old school games. Again, we're talking about the character death, the chance of you getting wounded, the chance of you going insane. There's more control when it comes to a DM as when it comes to the old school games. In the newer school games, the DM has been kind of cut off at the knees sometimes due to the people in the hobby. I wouldn't say the rules say that because the rules actually do at one point say that it's okay if you don't know a rule. Unfortunately, a lot of people forget about that particular rule in the book. Because the book is so overwhelming with all these different rules and options that you sometimes forget the little things. A lot of the old school game books are very thin and they have limited rulings in there for you. So you have to compare, think about it, and then make a judgment call based on the rules. Now, judgment calls come with a lot of experience, obviously, but a new person to the game who's just learning can make just as good of a judgment call and sometimes even better than someone who's been playing for 20 to 30 years. For example, I played in a game at a convention a couple years ago, and the DM who was running the game was one of the guy's sons. He was about 14. He was running Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, 1E. He played the part of the DM better than I've seen a lot of people who were playing the game for 30 years play the game. And he's never played it. Well, I mean, he just kind of started that year with his pop. And in that year, this kid figured out how to play the game and how to run the game just like one of us. One of us who have been playing for years and years and years figuring these things out. So it's not a matter of experience. It's just a matter of how well you absorb things and how well you can improvise. And I think old school games allow for more critical thinking because you don't have so many rules. It allows you to spread your mind and explore things and let players do things if they want to. I know a lot of times when it comes to newer editions, if it's not in the book, the DM just won't do it. And that really depends on the DM, obviously. Not every 5e or 4e or whatever DM is going to say that. A lot of them will be like, well, okay, sure. But I've heard quite a bit of a lot of no's, or, well, the book says you can't do that. And trust me, I live in a 2-college town where when 5e came out, there was a lot of, well, the book doesn't say you could do that. I've even had players in 5e games throw down a monster book in my face as a DM and say, it doesn't say the monsters can do that. When I told them in the beginning that I don't care if you've memorized the monster manual, monsters are going to be modified in this world. They're going to be doing different things. So they guess I didn't understand that, and they didn't ask any questions, and they just assumed I didn't know what I was talking about. So there was that. Again, I play it because I enjoy the atmosphere of the game. I enjoy the freedom of the game. And I think when it comes to TSR games or older games made pre-2000, they just fit in with my style of play better than anything else. Now, I will say Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition, that's my cutoff point when it comes to newer editions of games. I've only played a handful that were more newer as far as they were Palladium, but Palladium's rules really haven't changed in 4,000 years so much. So, but maybe that'll change soon. Probably the newest type of game I played would be like Tiny D6, and that is not really anything other than maybe an old school game itself, just with a newer flair to it, or maybe a D6 game that has a newer flair to it. But that's it. I play these games because I really enjoy the freedom, and that's why I play older games. There's nothing more to be said about it. And I assume most people that are here on this channel that watch these videos are probably in the same camp-ish with me here. They like learning about the old school games because all the videos on my channel here are about old school games. I don't think I've really done many mainstream games. I think I did a few things on 5e when it first came out. I don't remember if I did or not. I have to look through my back catalog. But mostly I did a lot about Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, classic Dungeons & Dragons, a lot of the old Palladium games, Star Wars D6, DC Heroes, Marvel Phase Rip, all the games probably prior to 2000 that I grew up playing. I just wanted to show everybody that just because the game's out of print doesn't mean it's no longer playable. You can actually sit and play it for hours and hours and still have fun. And the best part about a game that's no longer supported, and this is just my opinion, is that you're playing it so you get to dictate what happens going forward. So if there's not a rule for something, guess what? You get to make up the new rule for it. There's no supplement for it. Guess what? You get to make up the supplement. Obviously, you can't sell it, but you can hand it out for free as a fan. There are plenty of dedicated fan groups out there, such as Facebook or Reddit or, I don't know, wherever else. Forums. Some people still use forums. Mailing groups, things like that. I know there was one that replaced the Yahoo group. I can't think of the name offhand. But anyway, there's tons of, you go search on the web and Google, whatever you use, DuckDuckGo, whomever, and you search for your game, I guarantee you're going to find some type of group of people discussing it somewhere. And with that a bunch of people, you're going to find people sharing their opinions and the stuff that they homebrewed. And again, the good thing about Dead Games is that there's no person to say you did something wrong. Sure, the community may not like it. Who cares? You don't really need someone else's validation to play something in your game. I put stuff on my blog all the time. On my D6 blog or my main Evil DM blog or my Gotham database blog of write-ups of things I do. And I do it for me and for anybody out there looking for some inspiration for something. They may use it. They may not use it. Unknown. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Why do you play old school games? Or why do you play new school games over old school games? I'd like to know in the comments. Tell me your reasoning. And this is not obviously to start a war or anything like that. Or it's just a friendly conversation to promote videos here on the channel. Get people talking to one another. Tell me what you think. I'm going to head out. Keep original, keep it old school. Good night, and God bless.